I was trapped in a sham marriage with a closeted gay man. Now that we've had a child, he's dropped the act completely. Sign the divorce papers now, or next time I won't just beat you into a catheter, I'll beat your guts out. Gu Hui yanked the urine bag right off me. He splashed urine on my face with a look of disgust. You lost your job, got mental issues, and still think you can fight me for custody. Dream on. This marriage cost me my career, health, dignity, and ultimately my child. Then I jumped from the 28th floor. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the very moment Gu Hui proposed to me. Amidst the crowd's teasing cheers, I decisively accepted the proposal. Rebirth isn't a complete reset, it's just stuffing a battle-scarred soul into a youthful vessel. Gu Hui, shall we marry? This time, you got tricked into marriage by a psycho. 1. Marry me, Xian Xian. Confetti exploded in the air as rowdy cheers filled the room. A 3 years younger Gu Hui knelt on one knee, holding up a plain band ring. As I looked at him, all I could see were those soul-crushing lines from the queer forum in my past life. OP, I only married a woman to continue the family line. Now that we have a child, how do I get rid of the mother but keep the kid? Reply 1. Get her fired and make sure she never finds work again. That way you'll get full custody. Reply 2. If she refuses divorce, beat her within an inch of her life. She'll beg for divorce soon enough. OP. She's nearly beaten to death, bladder ruptured, doctors say she'll need a urostomy bag for life, still refuses to give me custody. Reply number 4, Jesus, that bitch gets wrecked like this and won't divorce. Is she mentally sound? OP, gave her depression from the beatings before, now it's turned bipolar. Reply number 6, that's insanity, sue for divorce now, guaranteed full custody. Move your assets first so you won't have to split shit. OP. All my salary savings are in my boyfriend's account, she can't touch my money. Any legal experts here? If I write my boyfriend an IOU during marriage, can it count as marital debt during divorce and make that woman repay it? 7F, La Grado 9 here. OP smart, this move totally works. Replies flooding in, genius OP, taking notes. That OP is Gu Hui, the man now proposing to me, Xian Xian. Gu Hui called my name again when I didn't respond. Will you marry me? Scanning the crowd of onlookers, I spotted a familiar face not far away, Song Mingxian, my husband's true love. His eyes held no anger at losing his lover, only the predatory gleam of someone watching prey stumble into a trap. He and Gu Hui were openly gay partners, their relationship known to both families. This so-called marriage proposal was just about carrying on the family line, taking a wife to continue the ancestral legacy. And I was the sacrificial lamb they'd chosen. I looked down at Gu Hui with a smile, gently accepting the ring and sliding it onto my finger. Of course we should get married, how else would I show you the horrors of being married to a psycho? 2. Xian Xian, my family isn't well off, maybe we should skip the wedding ceremony. It's fine, really, Xian Xian, work's been crazy lately, I can't get time off. Can we postpone our honeymoon? It's okay, really, Xian Xian, I have oligospermia, so we might need IVF to have a baby. I know this will be hard on you. No, I don't mind at all, it's fine. No matter what he said, I never refused, always responding with it's okay. From our marriage to my successful IVF pregnancy, the whole process went as smoothly as an enema for Gu Hui. I know he, his family, and his boyfriend are all waiting for me to deliver this child so they can flush me down the drain like used toilet paper. What they don't know is that this baby isn't Gu Hui's. After all, why the hell would I bear his child? I went to a sperm bank and handpicked a handsome, brilliant donor for my child, then tossed Gu Hui's specimen tube into the trash, where most of his offspring belong anyway. The IVF process required hundreds of hormone injections into my abdomen throughout the entire pregnancy. In my past life, after enduring excruciating pain to bring our child into this world, Gu Hui snatched them away effortlessly. The rage still consumes me. I literally punch the air in my sleep every night. Gu Hui got another midnight wake-up call from my fists. What kind of martial arts are you practicing in the middle of the damn night? He hadn't slept properly for half a month. Dark circles of rage forming between his eyebrows. Feminist combat. Fucking feminist combat my ass. Gu Hui burst into angry laughter. But this is the fist of justice. With that, I landed another punch square on his forehead, knocking him out cold. Ever since I got this mental illness, I feel like I've become so much stronger. 3. I slept straight through till broad daylight, waking up leisurely. Mom, I think she's gone crazy. Look how she beat me up. Through the door, I overheard Gu Hui quietly complaining to his mom. Oh, women, they all get a bit moody and irritable during pregnancy. Just bear with it for now. Once the baby's born, you won't have to indulge her anymore. In my past life, my mother-in-law kept up her act perfectly before the baby arrived. Even when Gu Hui and I argued, she'd take my side, making me believe she genuinely accepted me as her daughter-in-law, so I know she'll keep pretending this time too, until my child is born. No, seriously, I think she's lost her mind. Guess what she told me yesterday? She wants to quit her job, expects me to support her, a VP position in investment banking, pulling in hundreds of thousands a year. And she's just throwing it away. What? Absolutely not. The moment money was mentioned, even my usually sweet-talking mother-in-law couldn't keep up the act. She barged right in without knocking. Xian, wake up, don't sleep now. Mom needs to talk to you about something important. Mom, I'm thirsty, could you get me some water? My mother-in-law reluctantly brought me a glass of water. Too cold, I murmured, reaching out from under the covers to test it before quickly withdrawing my hand. The second glass arrived. Too hot. The third cup, lukewarm. Mom, bring me another straw. I want to drink lying down. My mother-in-law finally snapped, slamming the cup on the table and yanking my blanket off. Stop lazing around, look what time it is. Am I, an old woman, supposed to wait on you hand and foot just because you're pregnant, acting like you're some kind of royalty? I opened my eyes and sat up, feeling terribly apologetic. I thought it was my own mother who came in just now. Oh dear. How silly of me. A mother-in-law isn't the same as one's own mother. I shouldn't have been so familiar with you. My words made my mother-in-law visibly uncomfortable. What kind of talk is that? Of course I'm your mother too. I've always treated you like my own daughter. So do I get a share of your inheritance, a 50-50 split? How about Gu Hui and I each take half? I pushed my luck. Why don't we notarize a will first? Make it clear this is a no-strings-attached voluntary gift. My mother-in-law gasped twice in furious shock. You're just waiting for me to die. No way, but I'm unemployed now and really need the money. Finally getting to the point, my mother-in-law perked up. That job of yours was perfect, paid way more than Gu Hui's. Why on earth did you quit? I sneered inwardly. They don't want me to quit because my current earnings are considered marital property. Gu Hui could claim half in a divorce. In my past life, Gu Hui kept preaching about women needing careers and staying on the front lines through pregnancy, pushing me to work until the day before delivery. But the moment our child was born, Gu Hui's true colors showed. First he pressured me to quit and become a housewife. When I refused, he secretly copied my work files and sold them to my company's competitor under my name. The data breach was quickly uncovered, and I was branded as a corporate spy, facing industry-wide blacklisting across the financial sector. Every recruiter and HR department added my name to their blacklists. My decade-long career built through relentless effort was destroyed overnight. His sole motivation was that courts typically favor the financially stable parent in custody battles during divorce proceedings. Since I got a second chance, I knew exactly what he'd do, so I quit first. Let's see him try to ruin my reputation and career now. But my mother-in-law was furious. Childbirth costs a fortune. What'll you do for money now that you've quit? Ask Gu Hui for it. I shot back. If I'm doing all the work of bearing and raising this child, why should it even carry his last name? Seizing the moment, I made my demand. By the way, I've never even seen his paychecks. Now that I'm unemployed, his salary should be under my control. I watched as my mother-in-law's face flushed crimson, then gradually drained of color like a fading bruise. He doesn't make much. He's studying for civil service exams and money's always tight for him, she replied in a brittle voice. Even my mother-in-law knew about it. To prevent his salary from becoming marital property, Gu Hui had handed his paychecks to Song Mingxian before their wedding. How dare we have a child when we're broke? I snapped, throwing off the blanket as I scrambled out of bed. I'm getting an abortion right now. My mother-in-law grabbed me in panic. Didn't you save up a lot before? You must have some savings. Gone. All gone. What, exactly? Your precious Gu Hui claimed he had poor sperm motility and needed IVF, all funded by me. That's right. In my past life I was foolish enough to spend even my premarital savings on his fertility treatments. The worst part, he never even had oligospermia to begin with. He said that deliberately, not just because he didn't want to touch me, but more importantly, in divorce cases, courts tend to award child custody to the infertile party, and oligospermia fits that criteria perfectly. See how meticulously they've planned this. They're literally draining me drop by drop, but this time, I won't back down. I'm telling you I'm broke. If the Gu family won't pay up, I'll abort this baby. My mother-in-law was terrified of me. She feared her son wouldn't con another woman into bearing his child if we divorced. She left my room and returned moments later with a bank card, her face dark with displeasure. There's 100,000 yuan here. Take it for now, card in hand. I waved goodbye to my mother-in-law and happily flopped back into bed. Well, after being normal for so long, it's time to go crazy. 4. What on earth is she doing? Is she nuts? Can't you just wear headphones? I'm currently seated at the reception desk outside Song Mingxuan's office, where every passing employee gets drawn in by the sounds from my phone, curiously peeking before awkwardly scurrying away. That's right. I'm watching gay porn on my phone at full blast, on screen. Two men are entangled, moaning loudly, while in the adjacent workspace, Song Mingxian fidgets uncomfortably at his desk. Miss, this is our company's reception area. I'm afraid you can't sit here unless you have business with us. The receptionist finally gave in to complaints and came to shoo the visitor away. But I do have business here. I'm here to see someone. May I ask who you're looking for? I'll notify them for you. I have no idea, I declared matter-of-factly. My husband's phone is full of these videos, plus some guy in his contacts named Baby. I'm here to find his so-called baby. The receptionist froze for a solid few seconds, completely overloaded by this information dump. But you just said you don't know who this baby is. All I know is he works here. That's why I brought these videos as our secret handoff, I whispered conspiratorially. Mind lending me a projector? Wouldn't want him to miss our secret signal. Forget about the projector, the girl kept turning down my movie night invitation before finally blushing and bolting. Though the screening never happened, Song Mingxian was clearly rattled. I caught him whispering to my husband on the phone, "Get over here quick. That woman you married has lost it." Sure enough, my wonderful husband came screeching in within minutes. He snatched my phone and finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw it wasn't him and Song Mingxian in the video. "What the hell is wrong with you? You're into men and I'm not allowed to lose my shit." My voice was so loud it startled everyone working with their heads down. They were already eavesdropping on the gossip, but now they openly lifted their heads to gawk. "Keep your voice down." Gu Hui frantically moved to cover my mouth. I dodged with nimble footwork and casually fished his phone from his pocket. "Won't admit it. Fine, I'll call your sweetheart right now." Song Mingxian wasn't quick enough to power off his phone before I hit dial, when his ringtone blared out. All the rubberneckers who'd been staring at me silently pivoted toward him. "So, you're the homewrecker seducing my husband." I stormed over and dumped my half-finished coffee right on his face, provoked beyond endurance. Song Mingxian leapt to his feet. "You're the mistress here, Gu Hui and I." Song Mingxian. His words were cut short by Gu Hui's sharp rebuke. "I'm pregnant." Gu Hui couldn't let Song Mingxian agitate me, though left unfinished. I knew exactly what Song Mingxian meant to say. In my past life, right after I gave birth, the two of them came clean with me. I lashed out at Song Mingxian for being the other woman, only to be shut down instantly. He retorted, "I've known Gu Hui for 10 years, you've only known him for 3, you're the real homewrecker." Back then, I had nothing left but helpless rage, but this lifetime, different story. Gu Hui. "Choose me or him." I forced Gu Hui to make a choice right in front of his boyfriend. "I'm carrying your child. If you pick him, I'll get an abortion right now and we're heading straight to the divorce office." Gu Hui would love nothing more than to divorce me, just not at this moment. To keep me from leaving, Gu Hui swore on his life to cut ties with Song Mingxian, even retrieving his salary card to entrust to me. The entire office witnessed Song Mingxian being abandoned by his same-sex lover. I know Gu Hui will go back to sweet-talk Song Mingxian after I'm gone, but it doesn't matter, at least for now. His heartbreak is undeniably real, after all the pain he inflicted in my past life. It's only fair he tastes the bitterness of love's betrayal this time. After that outburst, Gu Hui thought I'd finally calm down for a while, but little did he know, crazy never takes a day off. Soon enough, I dropped another bombshell on him. I called the cops on myself. 5. Distribution of obscene materials. The officer scratching his head said, "Watching gay porn isn't exactly legal." "But you weren't actually distributing it." "But I had it playing out loud, just the audio was playing." "I also tried playing the video part, but you didn't actually set it off, did you?" The charge was practically nothing, and since I'm pregnant, the cops had zero intention of holding me. "Tell you what, have a family member come bail you out, and we'll let this one slide." He was worried I might slip and miscarry in custody, then he'd be on the hook for it. "Can you put this on my record, like a criminal file?" The cop couldn't help but laugh at this bizarre reverse negotiation tactic. "What exactly are you trying to pull here?" "My husband passed the civil service exam and is undergoing background checks," I admitted honestly. "If his wife has a criminal record, he'll fail the vetting process." "Do you have a grudge against your husband?" The cop gave a slight shudder. I nodded. "A blood feud, all right." The officer nodded understandingly. "What marriage doesn't have its share of old grievances?" He wagged his pen at me. "But, don't let me see you in homicide." The police made perfect sense, but pregnant women can't take medication. I did the math. It's been nearly 6 months since I stopped my psychiatric meds. I don't know how much longer my sanity can hold out. 6. Gu Hui failed his political vetting, casting a gloomy pall over the entire household. Meanwhile, I'm just living it up, eating, drinking, and making merry without a care in the world. My mother-in-law couldn't take it anymore. Xian, you can't keep spending like this. We're literally broke. After failing his civil service exam, Gu Hui returned to his old job. Though his boss worked him to the bone daily, the paycheck still covered the basics. The reason money was so tight, he was secretly supporting Song Mingxian on the side, turned out to be an unexpected blessing in disguise. Gossip spreads fastest in this world, but rumors cut the deepest. That scene I caused at Song Mingxuan's office, now the whole company knows he's gay. And when they saw me watching gay porn at their entrance, though he wasn't even in it, the rumor mill twisted it into she was watching her husband's sex tape with him right outside the office. Nuclear, absolutely nuclear. Then Song Mingxian was let go through mutual agreement with the company. Gu Hui couldn't bear to see Song Mingxian suffer, but with his paycheck under my control, he had no choice but to support her using their family savings. Mom, I understand. I'll start a small business to help with household expenses. Doing the math, Gu Hui should be planning to have Song Mingxian sign an IOU by now, so I need to accelerate my own plan. I'll give them a taste of their own medicine. 7. To be honest, if it weren't for that despicable couple, someone with my moral standards would never have conceived such a vile scheme. A month later, my small business was 4 million in debt, with IOUs signed to my friend. Both Gu Hui and I thought we'd outsmarted each other, so we coexisted peacefully for months afterward, only arguing over postnatal care center choices. I insisted on the best postnatal center, while Gu Hui considered it too extravagant. He wanted to take me home right after delivery for his mother's care. In my past life, after childbirth when I'd lost all usefulness, no one cared during my postpartum confinement. I had to drag my torn body just to pour myself a glass of water. After barely 2 weeks of bed rest, my mother-in-law called me lazy and made Gu Hui beat me, forcing me to cook and wash dishes in freezing water for the whole family. Just remembering it makes me homicidal. This time, Gu Hui repeated the exact same words from our past life. I was struggling to crack open a coconut when Gu Hui's come back home slipped out the moment those words left his mouth. My cleaver came down hard on the shell. The coconut shattered instantly, its water spilling across the floor in a gush. What did you just say? I wrenched the cleaver free from the broken shell and advanced toward him, blade in hand. Gu Hui's eyes widened in panic as he stumbled backward. It's not that we don't want you to stay, but we're truly out of money. If you've got funds, you can stay as long as you like. Oh, I see, I said, my expression softening. Actually, I still have money, premarital assets. Gu Hui swindled me out of everything in my past life. This time around, I'm watching my back and keeping my guard up. Nobody's touching my money. Truth be told, I never planned to use his money for the postpartum center in the first place. I know perfectly well this child isn't Gu Hui's. If he ever demands repayment for every cent spent on this child later, I'd rather use my own money from the start. The conflicts at the postnatal care center were finally resolved, and the day of delivery arrived. Just like in my past life, I had a difficult labor. 8. I wanted an epidural, but Gu Hui refused. I requested a C-section, but my mother-in-law objected. The new policy hadn't taken effect yet, so the husband still held the signing authority for epidural anesthesia. Without his consent, I could have been dying in labor pain on that delivery bed for all anyone cared. Gu Hui did this on purpose. I overheard him talking with his mother outside the door. Let her suffer from the pain now. Only when she's terrified enough will she obediently agree to the divorce. My mother-in-law chimed in. Come on, childbirth is painful for every woman. She's just being dramatic, wasting money. That's exactly how it went in my past life. They made me beg repeatedly, writhing in agony on the bed, yet remained coldly indifferent, refusing to sign. They forced me to endure 2 days and a night of torment before delivering a baby whose face was already blue from suffocation. But this time is different. Though I have no support, I've hired my own delivery squad, a team, in advance. How does a team assist with childbirth, you ask? Hey, you're painting yourself into a corner, aren't you? They'll eliminate every obstacle preventing my smooth production. Soon, I heard chaotic noises coming from outside the door. The mother-in-law screamed in utter distress. Stop, don't hit my son, what are you doing? Xing Chang, the leader of the Sonda team, shouted to me from outside the door. Don't worry sis, we got the device. The moment I heard this news, the excruciating cramps in my stomach miraculously seemed to vanish. They dragged Gu Hui into the empty ward next door, Four burly men pinned him to the bed and forcibly attached the electrodes of the labor pain simulator to his abdomen. Xing Chong went easy on him after all. With pain levels ranging from 1 to 10, he started Gu Hui at level 5, but Gu Hui couldn't even handle level 5, writhing in agony as four burly men struggled to restrain him. This won't do. The client specifically requested he experience level 10. Xing Chong made the call. Let's ramp it straight up to level 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Gu Hui let out a scream as agonizing as mine. The piercing cries cut through walls and doors, reaching my ears with terrifying clarity. The nurse arrived belatedly. Your wife wants to know, are you signing the consent form for her epidural or not? Sign it, just sign it, give me the damn pen, now. Guze's agony had him clawing the sheets to shreds, his nail-torn hands desperately reaching for the pen as if grasping at his last lifeline. The signature was so distorted it barely resembled writing, but he'd managed to scrawl it before passing out. As the anesthetic seeped into my spine, I let out a sudden, delirious chuckle in the haze. They say husband and wife share one body, well then, you'd better savor every ounce of my suffering. 9. The baby finally arrived, a healthy 7-4-pound boy. My mother-in-law was over the moon, refusing to let go of him and barely letting me near. Well then, don't you dare put him down. If she's willing to handle the exhausting newborn care, I'm certainly not about to fight her for it. Just eating, sleeping and scrolling through my phone every day, living the absolute dream. I stayed at a luxury postpartum care center for 2 months. The premium caregivers are truly next level. They pampered me like royalty, much to my mother-in-law's visible disapproval. What's the big deal about having a baby? Back in my day, I was working in the fields right after giving birth to my son, never needed this kind of coddling, such is the lottery of life. I sighed between bites of my Michelin-starred confinement meal, making sure she heard every word. Some are born with silver spoons, others with wooden ones. What a world of difference. My words drained the color from my mother-in-law's face yet again. You call yourself a mother, dumping all childcare on me. Where's your maternal instinct? Exhausted from round-the-clock babysitting and sleepless nights, her eye bags swelling by the day, she started plotting to turn me into her indentured servant. So where's his father then? I shot back. What? Did the man drop dead while his wife's in confinement? How can you even compare men and women? Fine, let's see you not give the child his surname then. At this point, my mother-in-law backed down and resumed rocking the stroller with her puffy eyes. She couldn't bear to see her son suffer, so naturally she endured the hardship in his stead. Gu Hui never showed his face once during those 2 months of my postpartum confinement. I suppose that childbirth simulator must have traumatized him beyond measure. It wasn't until I moved back home from the maternity center that he finally emerged from the bedroom with a dark expression. You're back. My mother-in-law shot us a glance before swiftly carrying my son into her room. I knew it. They were moving to phase 2 of their plan, domestic violence against me. Sure enough, the moment her door clicked shut, Gu Hui grabbed me by the hair and dragged me into the bedroom. Labor pain simulator, Meng Jiaxuan. I never realized you could be this cruel. He slammed me against the bedpost, then kicked me square in the chest. Childbirth is a woman's duty. You deserve this pain. You ought to suffer. Another brutal kick landed on my abdomen. If you've got energy for tricks during labor, the pain clearly isn't bad enough. Silently protecting my vitals, I curled into a fetal position, presenting only my back to him, punch after punch. Kick after kick. After what felt like an eternity, he finally wore himself out. Go sleep on the floor. He yanked the blanket over and collapsed onto the bed, falling asleep almost instantly. I waited a while longer until I heard his soft snoring before finally getting to my feet. My chest ached, my stomach burned, and my back, kicked countless times, had gone nearly numb with pain, yet my eyes gleamed with exhilaration in the darkness. Gu Hui had no idea I'd been waiting for this moment just as long. I turned around, click, the lock slid into place, then I returned to the bedside and slowly pulled down his trousers. With one swift motion, I castrated him. 10. A piercing scream triggered motion sensor lights across half the neighborhood. My mother-in-law burst from her room, frantically pounding on my bedroom door. Open up. What have you done to my son? Gu Hui clutched his severed groin, his face turning ashen with pain as beads of sweat rolled down. Utterly speechless, I'd prepared hemp ropes for binding, but they ended up completely unnecessary. A wound in that most vulnerable spot renders even the strongest man temporarily powerless to fight back. Still want to hit me? I asked him. I don't even care if I get no response. I opened the door and threw the severed flesh at my mother-in-law's feet. Call the police. I said casually, I've turned your son into a daughter. She let out a shriek, rolled her eyes back, and fainted. Pathetic. I ended up calling the cops myself. 2 officers arrived, one being the same cop who'd warned me to stay away from the Criminal Investigations Division. As he cuffed me, he kept glancing at my bruised and swollen body, his words dying in his throat. "See, pure self-defense," I said, oddly chatty given the circumstances. "That's not how self-defense works. Attacking someone while they're asleep counts as premeditated assault." The officer sighed on my behalf. "Try to settle this out of court, or you're looking at serious jail time." "No worries," I said cheerfully. "I'm mentally ill." The other cop clearly disliked me and sneered. "Everyone knows you can plead insanity. You think judges are idiots." "Wait, hold on." The sighing officer tilted his head at me. "She might actually be unstable." 11. I'm genuinely not right in the head. The psychiatric evaluation report lay plainly before the prosecutor and plaintiff, shattering their hopes of putting me behind bars. "You're mentally ill. How dare you trick me into marriage?" Gu Huey's eyes burned crimson as he repeatedly tried to charge from the plaintiff's bench to attack me. "Takes one to know one, you damn closet case." I shot back without backing down. "Oh wait, he's one of the girls now, so I guess that makes me straight." The court ruled that my mental illness, medication discontinuation during pregnancy, and domestic violence trauma led to extreme actions, resulting in a non-conviction verdict. No matter how bitterly Gu Hui resented it, he had to swallow this defeat. To prevent further abuse, I immediately filed for divorce. Just like in our past life, we stood in court again, only this time, I was the plaintiff, and he was the one on trial. "How dare you file for divorce?" Gu Hui was fuming with rage. "You're a wife-beating gay man who tricked me into marriage. What, too cowardly to own up to it?" I invited the media to livestream the entire divorce hearing, exposing his sham marriage and closeted homosexuality for the world to see. With his reputation already ruined, Gu Hui was determined to maximize his gains in this lawsuit. Since I'm diagnosed with mental illness, he held the upper hand in the divorce proceedings. Just like in our past life, he used my unemployment records and psychiatric diagnosis to demand custody of our child. He even produced his own disability certificate to prove he could no longer father children. He stood confidently in court with his lawyer, looking down at me with arrogance. "But the child isn't yours." I blinked. "Why should I give him to you?" "What did you say?" Gu Hui was stunned. "I arranged the IVF procedure. How could the child not be mine?" "Wrong, wrong, wrong." I shook my head, correcting him. "I'm the one who underwent IVF. You just provided a sperm sample. I paid for everything and carried the pregnancy. The decision to use your sperm was mine to make." "You bitch," Gu Hui finally snapped, hurling insults at me without a shred of dignity left. I can understand his desperation. After losing that particular function, this child was their family's only hope to carry on the bloodline. But, well, how unpredictable life can be. Gu Hui's lawyer demanded compensation for emotional distress, insisting I repay double all expenses, from prenatal care to childbirth, that he'd spent on this child. Even the lawyer, who was usually skilled at sophistry, was speechless when he saw the entire bill paid solely from my premarital assets. "You really didn't spend a single cent, did you?" The lawyer sighed at Gu Hui. "There's no need to be this stingy, is there?" "No, that's not it." Gu Hui went through the list item by item, from the ultrasound fees during prenatal checkups to the diapers used at the postpartum center, even the weekly imported formula expenses. All of it had been deducted from my premarital account. He never expected me to calculate everything so meticulously, leaving him no room to take advantage. "Looks like you met your match." The lawyer offered his client some half-hearted sympathy. "Next time you try marriage fraud, pick an easier target." But Gu Hui wasn't about to admit defeat. He still had one last card to play, that IOU he'd written to Song Mingxian during their marriage. 12. With a debt of 2 million, according to marriage laws, I'm liable for half of it. Gu Hui hired a new lawyer who meticulously prepared stacks of documents to counter all my reluctant objections. Little did they expect, I actually complied with the verdict without resistance. Debts taken for the family should naturally be shared. I wholeheartedly agreed with Gu Hui's lawyer's arguments. After all his lengthy statements spared me from addressing the judge, producing the IOU I'd prepared, I suggested, "This was also borrowed for household expenses. Shall we split the repayment?" For a million, faced with this staggering amount, even Gu Hui's new lawyer could only bow his head like a hype man, clapping like a seal and muttering wow. After these legal battles, not only did Gu Hui fail to profit from me, but the debt settlements left him owing me $1 million instead. He's completely finished. Rumor has it he developed depression too, lost his job, and is now scavenging trash to pay off debts. Song Mingxian. Of course Song Mingxian left him. I genuinely hoped to witness an unbreakable bond, but alas, trash attracts trash. Anyone who caught Gu Huey's eye was probably rotten to the core. 13. The day the million hit my account. I was at the household registration office holding my son to change his surname. Why can't I? I'm divorced now. My son should obviously take my last name, I protested indignantly. As I've explained, children can voluntarily change surnames after 18. Before that, it requires both parents' consent. Did your ex-husband agree? The clerk repeated impatiently. His consent doesn't matter. This child isn't biologically his. I showed her the court judgment documents. She read the line about my mental illness twice. Then verified the child had no blood relation to my ex-husband before reluctantly handing me an application form. Fill in all the blank sections. What's your surname? It's Meng, I cried out with joy. My surname is Meng, and from now on, my child will bear the Meng name too. He came from my womb, my precious little one who belongs to me alone. 14. In finance, what really matters is competence. A criminal record isn't that big of a deal. After the divorce, I threw myself back into the corporate world with reckless determination and somehow outperformed my pre-marriage career highs. I didn't keep the $1,000,000 I got from Guze. Marry me, Xian. Truth is, even after living 2 lifetimes and enduring many hardships, I've never harbored discrimination or hatred toward homosexuality. What I despise are those scumbags who use love as a trap to exploit others for personal gain, following the sighing officer's advice. I visited a psychiatrist and got my medication refilled. He was right. Since I live in this society, I should at least try to maintain my sanity, but life's unpredictable. On my way home, I stumbled upon a woman cradling a child, her body covered in bruises. What's wrong? She bumped into me, so I casually asked what was wrong. My husband abuses me, and now he's trying to take my child away. The woman sobbed uncontrollably. I have no money or job. What am I supposed to do? Hearing that, I tossed the medication in my hand straight into the trash. Need some backup then? I asked, itching to help. Honestly, being crazy ain't so bad. The end. Story 2. I was reborn back to the day I got kidnapped at age 5. The trafficker held a balloon in one hand while dragging me by the arm, trying to shove me into his car. My cousin Yi Ning suddenly pushed me aside and declared with righteous indignation, "Take me instead." I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. She fantasized about being abducted by traffickers like my past self, sold to a metropolis oceans away, adopted by wealthy parents to live a life of endless luxury and decadent pleasures. But she had no idea what the next 20 years would hold, the hell I had to endure. 1. In that past life, Yi Ning watched as the traffickers took me away without lifting a finger to help. I was sold to a wealthy but childless couple, while she shamelessly took my place on the family register, becoming my parents' beloved daughter in my stead. Later, when the factory restructured, my parents lost their jobs and our circumstances worsened, yet my parents still scraped together every penny to meet her needs, even taking menial jobs to put her through college. No output as the provided text is empty or contains only a non-printing character. But when we met again 2 decades later, she spoke of my parents with nothing but contempt. You have no idea how I live. No AC in summer, no heating in winter. One winter we nearly got carbon monoxide poisoning from the stove. They're nothing like when you were young, so stingy they'd agonize over buying a simple cut of meat. When a talent scout wanted me for commercials, they flat out refused, saying that industry's too shady for girls. Truth is, they're just scared I'll leave them behind if I make it big. Yet for all her complaints, her smooth complexion and neat clothes betrayed no signs of hardship. How about introducing me to your adoptive parents? I'd settle for just a minor role in showbiz. Her request to meet my adoptive parents sent chills down my spine. I shook my head vehemently in refusal. I couldn't let her fall into the clutches of those wolves in human clothing. Little did I know she'd grow to resent me for it. On the day I won Best Actress, she rushed to my limo and grabbed me just as I was about to get in. The blade went in clean and came out crimson. I collapsed in a pool of blood, my heart ceasing to beat. Till my dying breath I couldn't comprehend after her parents' tragic accident left her orphaned. It was my family who took her in. Whenever I got something delicious or fun, she was always the first one I'd share it with. When other kids mocked her for being an orphan, I immediately jumped in to fight them. After all I'd done for her, how could she repay me with repeated attempts on my life? I thought I'd never get my chance for revenge. Yet I was reborn, too. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to that fateful day at age 5, the day I was kidnapped. Yi Ning clung desperately to the trafficker's arm, shoving me to the ground. I'll go with you. I promise I won't cry or make trouble. Taking her with you is just asking for trouble. She's frail and sickly with a weak heart. She might die of fright the very next day. Then you'd not only lose the deal but also be charged with murder. Take just me instead. I can help you get more money." Staring at the scene before me, I looked around in disbelief. 7-year-old Ning, the balloon-selling trafficker, and the blue dolphin-shaped hydrogen balloon in my hand. The nightmare that had jolted me awake countless times at midnight was now unfolding right before my eyes. I touched the twin pigtails on my head, then pinched my own arm. Ouch, I was reborn. And I'd reincarnated on the exact day I'd been kidnapped by traffickers in my past life. Ning took me to the park. She got into an argument with another girl over a doll, while I was lured away by a balloon vendor who turned out to be a trafficker. The moment I accepted the helium balloon from him, he grabbed me and dragged me toward a waiting car. "Sister, save me," I screamed desperately at Ning, who was just a short distance away. She dropped the doll and ran a few steps toward me, then suddenly froze. She didn't move another inch. Even as the trafficker shoved me into the car and drove away, the trafficker took me to a bustling city I'd never seen before and sold me to a wealthy family for 20,000 yuan. From then on, my life became nothing but molestation, beatings, and imprisonment. Not a shred of warmth remained in this world for me. Watching Ning so determined to leave with those traffickers, I couldn't help but let out a scornful laugh. If she's so eager to live the nightmare I survived, I'll make damn sure she gets her wish. Seeing the hesitation in the trafficker's eyes, I immediately clutched my chest and collapsed to the ground, feigning a heart attack. "I think I'm having a heart attack. Help me, get me to a hospital." Ning froze for a second when she saw me on the ground, clearly not expecting me to play along with her act, but with such a golden opportunity right in front of her, she couldn't possibly let it slip away. She seized the moment to exaggerate. The doctor said during her last checkup that she'd need a heart transplant if the illness recurs, or she won't last a month. Hearing this, the trafficker shoved Ning into the vehicle alone. Before driving off, he spat at me. "Fucking jinx." Ning waved at me triumphantly from the back seat, humming a tune. I got up from the ground and dusted myself off with a dismissive look. Like a moth to flame, she was the first to do so. Soon enough she'd learned those seemingly kind foster parents were involved in shady dealings, and treated me with particular cruelty. They treated me like an unpaid servant, forcing me to clean, run errands, and wait on them hand and foot. My foster father would grope me when he came home drunk, and any resistance earned me a brutal beating. When I grew older and tried to escape, they caught me and locked me in a dark room for days without food or water. By 18, I'd become their puppet, a money-making tool passed from one strange older man's bed to another. In that past life, there was no escape. In this life, Ning was destined to become their new cash cow. 3. After Ning went missing, my parents placed newspaper ads and posted missing person notices for ages, but never caught even a glimpse of her. Back then, surveillance systems were underdeveloped, and our small town didn't even have basic CCTV coverage. As time passed, they eventually gave up the search. Ever since that day, I'd burst into tantrums from time to time, making my parents think I was traumatized. Maybe we should move. A change of environment might help Wanwan's condition. That night, my parents sat in the dimly lit living room, with only a single amber floor lamp glowing. My mother glanced toward my room, nodding silently with tears streaming down her face. A week later, we moved out. Before leaving, I threw the only photo of Ning in the house onto the floor. The movers trampled over it repeatedly while carrying our belongings. Watching her face distorted beyond recognition under those footprints gave me immense satisfaction. Ning, I hope you'll still be smiling like this 20 years from now. 4. In my past life after I went missing, Ning persuaded my parents to move away with her. Not only did they quickly give up searching for me, but they poured all their love into Ning instead. They devoted themselves to nurturing her and giving her everything she desired. 20 years later, I finally found Ning, holding my hand with guilt written all over her face. Ning said, "I was paralyzed with fear back then. I never meant to abandon you. Thank God you're back." My adoptive parents even sold their blood to buy me a piano when I was little. If they could do that for an adopted child like me, imagine how much better they'll treat their own flesh and blood. With hopeful anticipation, I sat with her in their cozy home, waiting to reunite with my birth parents. Yet when they returned, they looked at me as if I were a complete stranger. They refused to acknowledge me at all. My father shoved me out the door. "My daughter died long ago. Stop trying to scam us." I was utterly devastated, yet too afraid to go to the police. Under my adoptive parents' guidance, I ended up following their footsteps into shady dealings. Calling the police would be signing my own death warrant. Feeling utterly abandoned by the world, I obediently returned to my adoptive parents, back to my old ways, blood ties, just empty words when it comes down to it. 5. After moving, we rented a place while my parents scraped by doing odd jobs for others. Times were tough, but I genuinely understood what it meant to feel human happiness. Later, my parents borrowed money to open a small shop. Dad's handmade noodles were legendary, while Mom kept everything spotless with her tireless work ethic. We built good relationships with the neighborhood, and as regular customers multiplied, our hand-to-mouth existence gradually eased into comfort. At 15, I rushed home excitedly and practically forced my dad to watch the news with me. "Dad, let's join this platform and start doing food delivery too." My father was completely against it at first, but after my daily pestering, he finally signed up for online delivery and launched our digital sales channel. Eventually, business boomed, our chain stores spread across every corner of the city, and we even built our own factory offering dine-in, delivery, and ready-to-cook meal kits for home preparation. In no time, the Ean family rose to become one of the wealthiest merchant clans. With greater wealth came broader social circles, and naturally, more people entered our orbit. Little did I know that my efforts to improve our family's circumstances would also bring my reunion with Ean Ning 2 years earlier than fate intended. Our company was seeking a spokesperson for our new product line. The PR agency shortlisted several actresses whose image aligned with our brand, scheduling their final interviews for today. The moment the conference room door opened, Ean Ning sprang up from her chair. "What are you doing here?" Shock and disbelief flickered across her face. I shot her a cold glance and deliberately ignored her. "She's the decision maker at the Ean Corporation. Whether you land this endorsement today depends entirely on her." Ean Ning's manager gave her a discreet tug. Though visibly shocked, she maintained composure in the crowded room, offering me an apologetic bow before slowly resuming her seat. "My apologies, I mistook you for someone else." I gave her a dismissive glance before turning to my assistant with indifference. "Let's start with her first." She shot a sideways glare at her agent. "I thought this was just a formality. What's this about? Am I supposed to perform for her now?" Ean Ning pointed at me, her face twisted in resentment. Without looking up from her resume, I said flatly, unwilling. "Next." "Fine, I'm out. Who the hell wants your shitty endorsement deal anyway?" Ean Ning grabbed her bag, kicked the chair aside, and stormed out. Her agent scurried after her, pleading, "For God's sake, calm down. If you don't get that money for your parents, you'll have to." Ean Ning suddenly stopped dead in her tracks and turned to glare at her agent with venom in her eyes. "Have to what? Sleep with their hand-picked guy? What's one more fuck after all these years?" Qin Yu is no ordinary man. His depravity is legendary. Countless girls in our circle have been left half dead by his games. "Ean Ning, I fear you might walk in but never walk out alive." Nonsense, Qin Yu would never do such things. In her past life, she'd seen all those news stories about Qin Yu and me, how he proposed, how we were inseparable, the picture-perfect romance. "Relax, I've got him right where I want him." "No way, you have to land this endorsement deal no matter what." Her agent panicked seeing her ready to back out. "Why? I signed a betting agreement. If you fail to secure this endorsement, we breach the contract, you'll be blacklisted, lose all income, and your parents will never let you hear the end of it." Ean Ning's gaze pierced through the conference room glass, locking onto me inside. I met her stare unflinchingly. "Ean Ning, are you finally realizing how heaven and hell hang by a single thread?" 6. I glanced at the 3 remaining girls in the room. "Let's go with her." I pointed at Yuan Jin sitting quietly in the corner, her head bowed nervously. "Are you sure?" The assistant looked surprised. Yuan Jin is a complete rookie with no connections, no backing, and zero reputation. She's literally a nobody in this industry. Seeing I wasn't having second thoughts, he leaned in and whispered cautiously, "Boss, she's only got some ridiculous web series that may never air. Are you sure you want her?" I stood up and stared at him for 3 solid seconds before he hastily stepped aside to clear my path. "I'll arrange the 1-year contract immediately." My hand paused on the doorknob as I turned to glance at Yuan Jin. 5 years, Yuan Jin looked at me with glistening eyes. And I gave her an encouraging smile. "You've got this." I thought Eaning had already left, but to my surprise, she intercepted me right outside the conference room. "Do you think I'll starve without taking this ad?" I couldn't be bothered to argue and tried to leave, but she blocked my path. "Ean Wan, you do recognize me, don't you?" I pretended to think for a moment. "Sorry, it still doesn't ring a bell. You might have the wrong person." She clamped down on my wrist. "Ean Wan, stop playing dumb. You're the one who had those traffickers take me away." I scoffed and shook off her grip. "How pathetic. You were practically begging them to take you back then, remember?" I smiled at her with a knowing curve of my lips. "How's your luxurious life treating you? Comfortable in that lightless dungeon?" My words sent a visible shudder through her body before she glared at me with bloodshot eyes. You've been reborn too, haven't you? I simply kept smiling without a word. She suddenly grabbed my throat in a frenzy, slamming me against the wall. You knew they'd torture me, force me to entertain those disgusting old men. How could you do this to me? Though her grip left me gasping for air, the smirk never left my lips. Isn't this exactly what you did to me in our past life? Her hands went slack, staggering backward. A flicker of guilt crossed her face, only to be replaced by a vicious snarl. You have to give me this endorsement deal. You owe me this. I almost burst out laughing. How could she have the nerve to say I owed her? I turned to leave without another word, but she started screaming her lungs out behind me. If you won't give it to me, I'll go ask Mom and Dad. They'll definitely say yes. I dug at my ear. Parents, your parents died long ago. How are you going to ask them? Dig them up from their graves? My past life parents sold their blood for me. They wouldn't abandon me in this life either. She shoved past me and stormed down the hallway, vanishing around the corner. I brushed the wrinkles from my suit jacket. I'd like to see how this ghost of hers could possibly make my parents accept her again. The commercial shoot went smoothly. Yuan Jin was a dedicated actress. Every expression and line delivery was executed flawlessly. 8. The director couldn't stop praising her after the shoot, but the ad barely made a splash during its first week. Given Yuan Jin's complete lack of name recognition, maybe we should ask Yin Ming to fix this. Her industry reputation isn't great, but she's got decent audience appeal. My assistant suggested again, holding the campaign data. Before he could finish, the marketing director burst into my office excitedly. Boss, we've hit the jackpot. This time we've really hit the jackpot. He mirrored his tablet screen onto my office TV. That web series starring Yuan Jin dropped out of nowhere and blew up overnight. Our products with her exclusive endorsement sold out instantly. Distributors are flooding our phone lines right now. The marketing director was pacing excitedly around my office while my assistant gaped at me with a thumbs up. Boss, you're a legend. I calmly shooed them both out. This outcome was exactly what I'd anticipated. I actually had a hand in getting this drama greenlit. Back in her previous life, Yuan Jin skyrocketed to fame through this low-budget web series. Its absurdly ridiculous and unconventional plot made her an overnight sensation. With her sweet looks, hilarious personality, and solid acting skills, she instantly became a household name and a ratings guarantee. There's another reason I'm promoting her. To use her as leverage against Yin Ming and completely dethrone the industry's reigning queen. Every single resource that belonged to her, I've snatched and given to Yuan Jin. I single-handedly propelled her to A-list stardom, to the point where industry rumors swirled about us having a sapphic affair and Yuan Jin being my kept woman. I never bothered denying these baseless speculations. After all, they worked in Yuan Jin's favor. With me as her shield, nobody dared lay a finger on her. Call it my way of making amends for using her. As we spent more time together, we realized how well our personalities clicked and gradually became close friends. I'd just picked up my parents from the airport after their trip and was pulling out of the parking lot when suddenly a figure darted in front of the car. I slammed on the brakes so hard I nearly sent my mom flying from the back seat. 9. Before my mother could recover from the shock, loud banging noises erupted from the rear passenger door. Mom, Dad, it's me, Yin Ming. I got out of the car and pulled her away. Stop knocking, leave while I'm still being nice. She saw my parents get out of the car and rushed past me to grab my mother's hand. Mom, it's me, Yin. I'm home. My mother hadn't recovered from the earlier shock, and this sudden grab scared her out of her wits. She couldn't even bring herself to look directly at the woman. Yin Ming died long ago. What do you want by impersonating her? My father shielded my mother behind him, his face stern as he rebuked her. Dad, don't you recognize me? Yin Ming's eyes brimmed with despair. I'm your daughter. You used to dote on me, love me so much. How can you not recognize me now? Her tears welled up in her eyes, then streamed down her face as she spoke. My sister died long ago. I was the one who paid for her gravesite. I calmly recounted the lie I'd fabricated years ago. I knew Yin Ming would eventually come knocking to reunite with our parents. So 2 years ago I hired a rural couple to stage an act. I fabricated a story that Yin Ming had been adopted by them but tragically died in an earthquake. Later, I paid off that couple and erected an empty gravestone beside Yin Ming's biological parents' tomb. Only then did my parents truly let go of their guilt toward Yin Ming. Yin Ming's eyes turned murderous as she glared at me, lips trembling with such fury it seemed she'd tear me apart any second. I don't know why she's so mad. I just replayed her past life's tricks in this lifetime. With a little creative twist of my own, she lunged at me like a madwoman, grabbing my arm and shaking me violently. It's you took everything from me. Smack, a sharp slap rang out right beside me. To my shock, Mom actually struck her across the face. In our past life, Mom treated her like fragile porcelain, yet now she delivered that slap without hesitation. Ning stood frozen, clutching her reddened cheek. Mom, you hit me. Don't call me Mom, I only have one daughter. If you're sick, go to a mental hospital. If you hurt my girl again, I'll fight you to the death. Seeing my mother's furious expression, I found myself beginning to forgive her. Even though she'd neglected me in my past life, she'd truly been good to me in this one. The three of us left amidst Ming's curses, and even from a distance we could still hear her hysterical screams. Just wait, I'll make you regret this. Whether we'll regret it or not I don't know. But she definitely regrets going to Chinyu for help. 10. This so-called protector wasn't nearly as simple as she'd imagined. Bruised and battered, Ning stumbled out of Chinyu's villa only to be ambushed by paparazzi. Overnight, she dominated trending searches and tabloid headlines. Everyone now knew Ning was selling herself. Yuan Jin sat with Chinyu at the club, sipping cocktails in a high-slit black backless dress as they scrolled through the viral gossip. Happy now. This paparazzo is useless. The angle's all wrong. Can't even see the bruises on my face. I crossed my legs casually, letting my toe brush faintly against his thigh. In my past life, Chinyu nearly destroyed me. Though Yuan Jin doesn't know the full history between us, she offered to help me out of gratitude. My adoptive parents were gambling addicts who racked up massive debts at Chinyu's casino. When they couldn't pay, they came after me again. They had me scrubbed clean and wrapped up like a candy before delivering me to Chinyu. I begged my adoptive parents through tears. Anyone but that beast Chinyu. Anyone would do, but they wouldn't listen. They chained me to the hotel bed like a lamb for slaughter, leaving me battered and broken by Chinyu's cruelty. Damn it, you lied about being a virgin. You're nothing but used goods. Afterward, he casually grabbed a whip and lashed me twice with brutal force. His torture left me barely conscious. My body so battered I couldn't even tell where the pain originated. Later, as my adoptive parents gambled away even more recklessly, he subjected me to repeated torment. Over time, Chinyu seemed to develop a shred of pity for me. He bankrolled my rise, invested in the TV shows and films I starred in, and at least maintained appearances for me in public. As long as I didn't anger him, he'd call me baby in that sickeningly sweet tone, but when night fell after each rap party, dread would creep in. His repertoire of torture was endless. The louder I screamed, the more brutal he became. My silence only enraged him further, making the blows land harder. That was the day he pinned me down and choked me. Snarling, "I'll fucking kill you," I fought desperately, grabbing a hard object from the bedside and smashing it against his head in the chaos. Clutching his head, he collapsed beside me, blood streaming down his face. Panicked, I scrambled to put on my clothes to flee, but feared he might actually bleed to death right there. Summoning my courage, I ran back and wrapped his wound with a towel, then wiped the blood from his face. Those years of abuse from my foster parents didn't teach me much, but I sure mastered the art of self-rescue and bandaging. The bleeding stopped as he reclined against the headboard, half-sitting on the bed. "You've got some nerve," he said, laughing instead of getting angry. I stood by the bed trembling uncontrollably, my lips moving soundlessly like a gasping fish. "From now on I've got your back. Anyone who dares mess with you is dead meat." That's when I finally realized he had masochistic tendencies, and from that moment on, the beating stopped. He became my groveling lapdog instead. Yet Ning remained oblivious to all this in her past life, wearing headphones. Yuan Jin extended her finger as instructed, tracing lightly over his knuckles before deliberately digging her nails to leave 2 crimson trails on his forearm. 11. Chinyu licked his wound, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips. Not satisfied, Yuan Jin feigned annoyance. "She just walked out of your house on her own. I'm a little upset about that." "No problem at all." Completely smitten by Yuan Jin, Chinyu immediately called Ning's adoptive parents mid-conversation. "Bring that bitch to my club right now." Whatever was said on the other end of the line sent Chinyu into a furious rage. "God damn it, I told you to bring it over. Stop the fucking excuses. If she can't walk, let her crawl." Yuan Jin deliberately put on a frightened look, her brows furrowed as she curled into herself. Seeing her fear, he instantly switched to a smarmy grin and draped an arm over her shoulder. When she flinched, he jerked his hand away, not daring to touch her again. "Darling. Did I startle you? I'm the worst, I deserve to die." He slapped himself several times across the face. Yuan Jin took a sip of wine and pouted playfully at him. "Come on, that didn't even sound loud." Slap, slap, slap. He suddenly intensified his force, and seeing Yuan Jin still unsmiling, he even summoned his trusted aide Lin Se over. Hit me hard." Lin Se hesitated, not daring to lay a hand on him. Pathetic. Yuan Jin stood up with her clutch and was about to leave when a sharp slap echoed behind her. The sound was so loud it reverberated through the room. I jumped on my end of the call. Lin Su really went all out. I wouldn't be surprised if he ruptured the guy's eardrum. You fucking bastard. That was way over the line, Qin Yu growled, watching his subordinate clench his fist. Yuan Jin burst into a fit of giggles at the scene, seeing her smile. Qin Yu's irritation melted away as he hunched over with a chuckle, sidling up to Yuan Jin. Yi Ning's grand performance hasn't even started yet. Don't rush off. Oh right, I almost forgot. The real show's about to begin. Yi Ning was practically dragged to the club by her adoptive parents. I hid in the inner room when I saw them coming in. Young Master Qin, I brought her as promised. About that money, if she pleases me tonight, I'll lend you another 5 million. Yi Ning's adoptive parents' eyes lit up at the mention of 5 million. They dumped her on the couch and left without a second thought for her well-being. I've got another engagement. You all carry on. Yuan Jin concealed the listening device in the room before leaving. Inside the room, Yi Ning curled up on the sofa, her eyes wide with terror and brimming with despair. I won't scream or cry. Could you please stop hitting me? She pleaded with him. Unaware that Qin Yu's greatest pleasure came from women's sobs and screams, how could Qin Yu possibly enjoy himself if she stayed silent? Two sharp slapping sounds came through the headphones. Who the hell gave you the right to negotiate with me? Qin Yu never held back when hitting women. An hour later, she was taken away by an ambulance. The paparazzi I knew couldn't stop grinning after scooping this exclusive. The next day when I visited Yi Ning at the hospital with flowers and fruits, her adoptive parents happened to be there. 12, sis, I finally found you. I threw myself onto the bed, hugging Yi Ning while sobbing uncontrollably. Her vocal cords were damaged beyond speech, and though her whole body resisted, she lay motionless in bed covered in injuries. I'm truly grateful for all the years you've taken care of my sister. I wiped my tears and pulled a card from my pocket to give to her adoptive parents. There's 2 million in here. It's our family's small token of appreciation. We hope you'll accept it. The moment they heard the amount was only 2 million, their expressions turned sour. Yi Ning's adoptive mother rolled her eyes at me. 2 million. That's barely enough to tip a beggar. I feigned hesitation. This is all the cash we can spare from home. Fine, I'll take this for now. Consider the rest an IOU. Yi Ning's adoptive father pocketed the card, only to have it snatched away by her adoptive mother before it could warm his pocket. I don't trust you with it. I'm the one who shouldn't trust you. The two were wrestling over that card right in front of me, while I stood by enjoying the free entertainment like watching circus monkeys perform. I only stepped in to mediate when they were red-faced and about to come to blows. I quietly closed the hospital room door and cautiously motioned for their attention. Gentlemen, no need to fight. Though I'm broke now, I've got some goods stashed away. Once we're out, I'll split the profits with you 50-50. How much is it? I held up a finger. 10 million. Yi Ning's adoptive mother gasped in delight, covering her mouth to stifle any exclamation that might draw attention. A look of sheer greed spread across Yi Ning's adoptive father's face. He rubbed his hands together and sniffled, practically drooling with anticipation, fighting back nausea. I gave them the location for picking up the scattered goods. The next evening, the pair showed up right on time at the drop point, but they failed to deliver the merchandise to the agreed location as promised. I saw this coming from miles away, and that bag didn't contain any contraband to begin with. They're dealing in the club right now. Lin Su, Qin Yu's right-hand man, whispered in my ear, his breath tickling me. I cupped his face and planted a kiss on his lips. You. What if someone sees us like this? His face flushed crimson like a ripe apple in an instant. I stood up before Lin Su, placed his hands on my waist, and pressed another kiss to his lips as I tilted my head up. I don't care. I need to recharge, I cooed, pecking his lips twice more playfully. After a brief pause, he swept me into his arms and began responding with equal passion. Only after what felt like an eternity did he reluctantly let me go. We've got business to attend to, sweetheart. He returned to the club while I went to the convenience store across the street, keeping watch on Qin Yu's every move through the computer monitor. Lin Su knocked on Qin Yu's door and placed the previously concealed black briefcase on the table. 13. We've located the missing shipment. Qin Yu snapped to attention the moment he heard the news. He slammed the table and roared, who the hell dared touch my goods? I'll feed the bastard to the sharks. Qin Yu had Yi Ning's adoptive parents brought in. The couple knelt before him, kowtowing desperately for mercy. We genuinely didn't know it was your shipment. Show us mercy. Let this slide and we'll give you all our earnings. For secure document protection, choose Xiao Hu Bot, your reliable bookfinding assistant. Stable service, zero hassle. Qin Yu opened the bag to find nearly half its contents missing. Without bothering to hear their excuses, He ordered his men to beat the couple mercilessly, / make them disappear, / Chinyu. Still groggy from the alcohol, plopped onto the sofa and closed his eyes to rest. I watched with immense satisfaction as Yin Ming's adoptive parents were dragged out like lifeless dogs by Chinyu's men. After 2 piercing screams, they were thrown into the sea with sacks over their heads and stones tied to them. I shut my laptop and rushed to the club entrance to meet Lin Su. Hand in hand, we strolled down the street as police sirens wailed behind us. Lin Su pulled me into his embrace, and I nuzzled my head against his chest. At long last, it was all over. Chinyu was sentenced to death for large-scale counterfeit goods smuggling. Yin Ning's adoptive parents were rescued just in time and thrown behind bars. They'll likely rot there for the rest of their lives. 14. As for Yin Ning, who'd helped Chinyu distribute contraband multiple times, she feigned insanity to evade accountability and got herself committed to a psychiatric facility. When I saw her again, she was crouched in a corner, hair disheveled, eyes vacant, muttering to herself. But the moment she spotted me, it was like a switch flipped. She suddenly lunged for the bedside lamp and hurled it at me. If Lin Su hadn't pulled me into his arms in time, I might have been seriously hurt by her. You really should be more careful. Lin Su gently stroked my hair, his voice dripping with tenderness. I was practically melting from his gentleness. Yin Ming stared at the scene before her as if waking from a dream. It's all coming back to me now. He was always by Chinyu's side in our past life, wasn't he? After all I'd done for her, how could she repay me with repeated attempts on my life? Lin Wu, in our previous life, when Chinyu's torture nearly broke me, it was Lin Su who kept me warm. He always stayed quietly by my side, tending to my wounds and reminding me to hold on to hope. His presence cracked open my world of darkness. And when sunlight finally streamed in, I found my will to live. But in my past life, I wasn't worthy of him. After rebirth, the moment our family's fortunes improved, I convinced my parents to visit the orphanage. I recognized him instantly, sitting in the back row of the room. Dad, that's the one. He'll be my husband. I want him as my childhood betrothed. The director smiled. Your daughter has excellent taste. Lin Su is the most well-behaved and top-performing student among our children. I stubbornly held his hand, determined to bring him home. After all, one should start training their future husband from childhood. Lin Su's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at me like I was insane, absolutely refusing to come with us. I threw a tantrum on the floor, crying relentlessly until my parents spent ages persuading Lin Su, finally convincing him by saying he'd be like an older brother to me. In the car, I held Lin Su's hand and nuzzled my face against his arm over and over. Like a kitten, I snuggled into his embrace, quietly letting him stroke my hair. This was exactly how he used to caress me in our past life. How I've missed this long-lost feeling. Lin Su didn't refuse. He turned his face toward the window, lips curling into a faint smile, the tips of his ears tinged pink. I knew it. He liked me. After graduating, Lin Su became a cop but was quickly dismissed, ending up as Chinyu's lackey. We had a huge fight. Back then, I'd sought him out precisely to steer him away from repeating his past mistakes, yet in the end, I failed. Back then I could never understand why I managed to alter everyone's fate except his. It wasn't until he took a near-fatal knife wound to gain Chinyu's trust that he finally revealed the truth to me. Turned out he was an undercover cop sent to gather more evidence against Chinyu and dismantle his criminal operation. My quest for revenge naturally led me to secretly collaborate with him. He regained his police badge, and I finally stepped out of the shadows of my past life. 5 months later, Lin Su knelt on one knee holding up the ring, looking at me. Does that childhood betrothal promise still stand? Story 2. My left leg was amputated. When the car accident happened, I pushed Shen Linchuan away. He was unharmed, but my left leg was caught in the wheels. In order to repay the favor, he married me who was in a wheelchair. We have been married for more than 10 years. Accompanying each other and moving forward hand in hand. Although there are occasional ups and downs in life, I consider myself to have a stable and happy life. It was not until I died of respiratory failure caused by chronic myelitis that he sat in front of my grave and babbled. He said, "You lost your left leg to save me. I was also imprisoned in a self-imposed prison and forced to stay by your side for more than 10 years. Now that you're dead, I'm finally free. In this life, we're even with each other. If there's an afterlife, we'll be miles apart and never see each other again." After saying that, he lit our marriage certificate in front of the grave. 3 months later, he remarried in a high-profile manner and hosted a banquet for guests from all over. I know the bride. She is Lin Muxue, his former first love. After exchanging rings, he hugged the woman tightly in his arms and said with a choked voice, "Over the years, you and our daughter have suffered so much. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day of the car accident, given a second chance at life. This time, I choose to respect his wish. 1. The dazzling summer sunlight made my eyes ache. The steaming heat from the ground seeped up from my calves, feeling so real that it made my heart tremble. I subconsciously lowered my head. When my gaze touched my intact left leg under the skirt, my emotions got out of control in an instant. It had been so long, so very long, since I last had the feeling of standing firmly on the ground. Beside me, the man who was quickly replying to a message on his phone raised his head in surprise and looked at me. Seeing me in tears, he was taken aback and asked nervously, "What's wrong? Why are you suddenly crying for no reason?" I slowly raised my tearful eyes. Through the hazy mist of tears, I looked at the man in front of me. Shinlin Chuan at the age of 22 was really good looking. He was full of youthful vitality, with his eyebrows and eyes relaxed, and his eyes clear and bright, without the exhaustion and depression that would later seep into the depths of his eyes. I had almost forgotten. It turned out that before we got married, he was so full of ambition and vitality. Shinlin Chuan noticed my scrutiny, and his handsome eyebrows furrowed slightly. This imperceptible change made my heart suddenly tighten. In my previous life, whenever he thought I was being unreasonable, he would always look down at me coldly with this expression. I felt desperate and guilty. He raised his hand to wipe the tears from my face and sighed. "Are you still angry about me getting into a fight and being sent to the detention center? I've explained it to you many times. That bastard was trying to molest Mushue, so I smashed a wine bottle on his head in a fit of anger." In that situation, who wouldn't? I took a step back to avoid his touch and interrupted him calmly. "You don't need to explain to me. This matter has nothing to do with me anyway. It's your freedom to decide who you want to save." The expression on Shinlin Chuan's face went blank for a moment, and the rest of his words got stuck in his throat. After a long while, his voice was tense, and he frowned as he asked me, "What do you mean by that?" I looked down at my intact left leg again and replied calmly, "It means exactly what it says. By the way, the compensation money I paid for you just now, plus the medical expenses for the injured person that I advanced for you before, amounts to a total of 57,170 yuan. That was the money I saved from my part-time jobs to pay off my student loans. Please return it to me as soon as possible." 2. In my previous life, when I learned that Shinlin Chuan had been detained for fighting, I thought there was something wrong with my ears at first. He was always a gentle and polite student union cadre, a model student praised by the teachers. He had never even had a heated argument with anyone. How could he get into a fight with street hooligans and even end up in the police station? Later, after I paid the compensation money for him and completed the formalities, I picked him up. But when I saw the man in front of me clearly, I was so shocked that I froze in place. He was in a sorry state, with a bruised cheek, a piece of his right sleeve torn off, and scabbed wounds on his hands. This appearance was completely different from the Shinlin Chuan I had known for 3 years in college. When he saw me, he explained to me in a flustered manner, Mushue and her friend were in a bar and were harassed by a drunk hooligan. The man was acting drunk and pressed her on the sofa, trying to molest her forcefully. Li Qing and I happened to pass by. We couldn't just stand by and watch, could we? I was curious why he would suddenly go to a bar with his friend, but he had always been sincere and enthusiastic, so I didn't doubt his words too much. Although we were lovers, we also maintained our own space and freedom in our daily lives. In that situation, even if they weren't classmates, it was only right to stand up and rescue the molested girl. What's more, I also knew Lin Mushue. She was Shinlin Chuan and Li Cheng's high school classmate. Now she was in the same university as us, majoring in music performance at the School of the Arts. Although I didn't have much contact with her, in my impression, she was good-looking and graceful, and I had a good impression of her. However, Shinlin Chuan's way of saving her by directly smashing a wine bottle on the hooligan's head was a bit too extreme. Fortunately, the case was finally settled through mediation. Otherwise, Shinlin Chuan would really have gone to jail. The only thing that made me feel strange was that when the police handled the case, they didn't mention the key plot of the hooligan's attempted molestation of Lin Mushue. They only classified the incident as a simple fight. It wasn't until many years later that I accidentally learned the truth of what happened that year from Shinlin Chuan's group of friends. 3. That was 2 months before my death. Li Qing, Shinlin Chuan's best friend and also our college classmate, held a housewarming party after moving into his new villa. Naturally, Shinlin Chuan took me with him. I was already in a very bad state at that time. The nerve pain caused by chronic myelitis tormented me day and night. In addition, I also suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, and my spirit was in a state of high alert. I was prone to getting emotional and didn't get along well with the people around me. So when everyone was chatting warmly, feeling that I couldn't fit in, I went to the back garden of the villa alone. The moonlight was slightly cold, like a layer of thin frost sprinkled on the blooming tulips. I quietly sat on the rattan chair beside the flower tree, unconsciously rubbing my left leg with the prosthetic limb, just as I was in a daze, looking up and counting the sparse bright stars in the sky. The window on the first floor of the villa was suddenly opened. The warm yellow light from inside the house spilled out. The laughter of several men, mixed with the click sound of lighters, also reached my ears. Lin Chuan, how can you stand Su Yuning's aloof personality? Can't she even smile? Her face has been cold all night, making it seem like my wife and I have neglected her. I remember she wasn't like this in college. This was the voice of Li Qing, the host of today's housewarming party. Lin Chuan said something in a low voice, probably apologizing for me. Another male voice interjected, come on. There are many disabled people in this world, but I've never seen a few people as self-centered as her. Don't get me wrong, bro, I'm not mocking you, but you've really made a bad choice in this life. Su Yuning looks at least 20 years older than you. I was really scared by her appearance just now. Is it worth it for you to give up Lin Muxue for such a woman? Someone else chimed in, yeah, I think Brother Shen must have lost his mind. He and Lin Muxue were recognized as the perfect couple in our high school. Even the dean turned a blind eye. Now he's giving up an excellent woman like Muxue for a disabled woman like Su Yuning who's missing a limb. He's really being foolish. The night wind carried a faint smell of cigarettes into my nostrils. In the darkness, I looked at the man standing by the window. The cigarette in his hand flickered on and off, but he didn't say a word. Li Qing flicked the ash off his cigarette and suddenly sighed. You guys should stop talking too much. Don't forget that it was Lin Muxue who betrayed Lin Chuan first. After she entered university, she got together with that senior who drove a luxury car. Otherwise, Lin Chuan wouldn't have found Su Yuning, who looks 6 or 7 points like Lin Muxue, as a substitute. And now he's stuck with her for a lifetime. After taking a deep drag on his cigarette, he extinguished the cigarette but in the ashtray. Also, if it weren't for you guys meddling in the middle and encouraging Lin Muxue to get back together with Lin Chuan after her breakup, she wouldn't have gone to the bar and deliberately fooled around with that hooligan after being rejected, and she wouldn't have deliberately sent photos to Lin Chuan. In the end, Lin Chuan was so angry that he smashed the hooligan's head with a wine bottle and ended up in the police station. Fortunately, Su Yuning was busy running around. She not only invited a lawyer friend to help with the mediation but also paid the compensation money for Lin Chuan. Otherwise, Lin Chuan would definitely have gone to jail. After Li Qing finished speaking, there was a moment of silence among everyone. Finally, someone said, why bring up those old things? Even if she has a huge debt of gratitude, Brother Shen has married her. Isn't the debt already repaid? I was in the dark, and my throat seemed to be suddenly choked tightly. The inner collapse came like a tsunami. So that's how it was. Later, from their intermittent conversation, I finally pieced together the complete truth of what happened. Lin Muxue and Shen Linchuan were each other's first love. The boy was excellent, and the girl was beautiful. Everyone said that they were like the male and female protagonists in a youth novel, but after entering university, Lin Muxue met a senior who drove a Ferrari. On the day of their breakup, Shen Linchuan was in a daze and got himself dead drunk. He waited downstairs in Lin Muxue's dormitory for 3 days but didn't get an explanation from the girl. However, less than a year later, Lin Muxue's relationship with the senior ended in a breakup. After that, Lin Muxue began to contact Shen Linchuan frequently, wanting to get back together with him. At that time, Shen Linchuan and I had already officially established a romantic relationship, but she didn't plan to give up. She would buy breakfast in the cafeteria every day and then wait downstairs in the boys' dormitory. She would put the love letters she wrote into a beautiful envelope with a faint fragrance and ask Li Qing to put them in Shen Linchuan's school bag. She persisted for a year, but the man still didn't turn back. Until her birthday, she specially booked a hotel and put on the newly bought sexy lingerie. Her birthday present to herself was to give an account of her past youth. She said that this was just a one-time thing, and she would never bother him again. However, Shen Linchuan didn't show up for the appointment. The drunk Lin Muxue sent a video to Shen Linchuan in the bar. In the video, the hand of a strange man had already reached into her exposed collar. When Shen Linchuan rushed to the bar in a hurry, he saw her being pressed in the booth by the man, with her skirt in a mess. Shen Linchuan was blinded by anger. He reached out and pulled Lin Muxue away from the man, and then got into a fight with that person. Later, because he was subdued, in a hurry, he picked up the wine bottle on the table and smashed it hard on the man's head. As for what happened later, I already knew. With that smash, Shen Linchuan almost ruined his bright future. The other party stubbornly refused to reach a settlement and insisted that Shen Linchuan go to jail. After I learned about it, I contacted the lawyer I met when I was doing a part-time translation job overnight and asked him to help deal with the matter. I also visited the man in the hospital several times and pleaded with him humbly to reach a settlement. After a week of difficult negotiations, the other party finally relented. He demanded 50,000 yuan in compensation plus covering all his medical expenses and agreed to a negotiated settlement. Shen Linchuan didn't want his parents to know that he had gotten into trouble at school, so I advanced them more than 50,000 yuan. That was my scholarship and the money I earned from translation orders in the past few years of college. The car accident that led to my amputation happened on the way back to school from the detention center. At that time, after Shen Linchuan answered a phone call, he suddenly said that he wanted to buy something at the supermarket across the road and asked me to go back to school first. Just as he was crossing the road, a black car lost control and rushed towards him. I didn't have time to think. My body reacted faster than my brain. I rushed over and pushed him away with all my strength, but my left leg was caught under the wheels of the car. Due to the severity of the injury, a large area of the leg tissue became necrotic. In order to save my life, my left leg had to be amputated. After coming out of the operating room, Shen Linchuan held my hand tightly. With red and swollen eyes, he knelt in front of my hospital bed and promised that he would take good care of me for the rest of his life. Later, I took a leave of absence from school and gave up the idea of taking the postgraduate entrance examination. I lay straight in the simple rental house that Shen Linchuan rented for me every day. The only outdoor activity was when Shen Linchuan took me to the hospital for rehabilitation training. A year later, Shen Linchuan graduated from university. Instead of starting to look for a job like other graduates, he discussed with a few friends to start a media company. He took the remaining 800,000 yuan of the car accident compensation money in my card as the startup capital for the company. My rehabilitation treatment was forced to be interrupted. Many years later, my attending doctor told me that if I could have persisted in completing all the rehabilitation courses, I might not have developed long-term chronic myelitis. 6. Later on, Shen Linchuan took me home to meet his parents. When his parents learned that their son's marriage partner was a woman missing a leg, their faces instantly turned as iron, gloomy as iron. They didn't even bother to maintain the superficial courtesy. They directly pointed at me and cursed at my nose in front of their relatives and friends. They called me shameless, a cripple, and a burden that would only drag down their son. But no matter how they cursed, I remained indifferent. What else could I do? I lost a leg to save Shen Linchuan. Because of the amputation, I suffered from severe post-traumatic stress disorder. At night, I was always struggling in pain between fear and despair. Given my current situation, Shen Linchuan was already my best choice. Why should they ask me to give up? I won't even if I die. Unfortunately, I didn't recover well after the amputation. Chronic myelitis tortured me beyond recognition. Before I reached the age of 40, my hair was almost completely white, and my face was extremely old. Shen Linchuan hired 2 nannies to take care of me and transferred 200,000 yuan of pocket money to my card every month. He seldom went home himself. Even if he came back a little earlier occasionally, he would always stay in the study and only come out late at night. He was always busy and always on business trips. On the night of Li Cheng's housewarming party, my body trembled and I had difficulty breathing due to the onset of post-traumatic stress disorder, and I was urgently sent to the hospital. I asked Shen Linchuan for an explanation, but he always avoided showing up. 2 months later, I died in the hospital of respiratory failure caused by myelitis. Until the last moment, Shen Linchuan never appeared again. After I died, my soul lingered for a long time. I watched as the nurse covered me with a white cloth, looked at the gradually brightening sky outside the window, and saw Shen Linchuan, who came late, standing in front of my body with a look of relief on his face as if he had been freed. After dealing with the funeral affairs, he sat in front of my newly built grave and lit a cigarette. He said, "Jiang Yuning, you lost your left leg to save me. I was also imprisoned in a self-imposed prison and forced to stay by your side for more than 10 years. Now that you're dead, I'm finally free. In this life, we're even with each other. If there's an afterlife, we'll be miles apart and never see each other again." After saying that, he lit our marriage certificate in front of the grave. I followed Shen Linchuan to the front of a luxurious villa. A woman wearing a silk nightgown ran out of the villa barefoot. She threw herself into the man's arms. It was Lin Muxue. She hugged the man around the waist and comforted him softly. "Honey, don't be too sad. That woman is dead. from now on, our family of 3 will live a good life." The man nodded silently. In the evening, I saw their daughter, who was already in the 3rd year of junior high school, but I had only been married to him for 15 years. It turned out that the marriage I had thought was stable before had already been completely rotten. 7. I don't know if the hatred surging in my eyes due to the memories was too obvious. Shen Linchuan softened his tone, and his voice was so gentle that it was almost flattering. "Okay, don't be angry. I'll transfer the money to you as soon as I raise it. Now, let me take you to that dessert shop you like the most. How about it?" I shook off his hand that came to hold mine in disgust. Shen Linchuan was a bit stunned, and his right hand hung awkwardly in the air. Just then, his phone rang suddenly. After looking at the caller ID, he glanced at me in a flustered manner and said to me with an unnatural expression, "Yuning, wait a moment, I need to answer this call." Then, he covered the receiver and walked a few steps to the side. "Hello, Mu Shue." His lowered voice drifted over with the wind. "Don't worry. I've already dealt with the matter, and I'm out of the detention center." I didn't know what was said on the other end. I saw a slight blush on the tips of his ears. He asked in a low voice, "What brand of tampons do you use?" "Okay, if your stomach hurts, just stay in the dormitory and don't come out. I'll buy tampons and painkillers for you later and send them to you." When he hung up the phone and turned around, there was still a trace of tenderness on his face that he hadn't had time to put away. He said to me a bit awkwardly, "Yuning, I suddenly have something to do. How about you go back to school first, and I'll buy the dessert and come to find you downstairs in your dormitory later." I glanced at the messages constantly popping up on Shen Linchuan's phone and said indifferently, "No need, I still have something to do tonight. You can go and take care of your own business." The man let out an imperceptible sigh of relief, nodded, and said, "All right, then I'll go first. Be careful on your way back." In the setting sun, I watched him eagerly walk across the road, thinking of the fear and despair I felt in that instant when my left leg was caught under the car in my previous life. I suddenly blurted out, "Shen Linchuan." He turned his head and smiled at me. "What's wrong, Yuning? Is there anything else?" I looked at this man who had been by my side for nearly 20 years in my previous life, the man who once knelt beside my hospital bed and swore to love me and take care of me for a lifetime. The afterglow of the evening sun cast a hazy layer of blood color on him. At this moment, the green light behind him turned on. "Be careful when you cross the road. Watch out for getting hit by a car and killed," I said. Shen Linchuan was taken aback, and then he grinned at me. "Don't worry. Your boyfriend has a tough life." I looked at him without saying anything and turned to walk in the direction of the school. A dozen seconds later, there was a harsh screech of brakes behind me, followed by a bang, the dull sound of a heavy object hitting the ground. Someone screamed in terror. "Ah, someone's been hit. Call the police quickly." I tightly clenched the strap of the canvas bag on my shoulder, and my nails dug deep into my palm. The surging crowd kept rushing towards the intersection where the accident happened. My stomach suddenly cramped violently. I couldn't hold it in any longer and bent over, retching violently. 8. I returned to the dormitory in a daze, only to meet a pair of eyes that seemed to want to say something but held back. "Yuning." My roommate seemed hesitant to speak. I let out all my strength and threw the canvas bag and my phone on the table. Then I randomly grabbed the water cup next to me and took a few big gulps. The cold liquid slid down my throat, cooling the burning feeling churning in my chest a bit. "What's wrong, Yao Yao?" I asked. My roommate hesitated and pushed the phone in front of me. "This post was just posted 5 minutes ago. Could the injured person be Shen Linchuan from our class?" I looked at the phone screen. The title on the campus forum on the screen was "Shen Linchuan from the School of Finance encountered a severe car accident near the Cultural Square." In the webpage, although the photo was pixelated, the blurred dark red bloodstain was still shocking. I looked at this piece of content and didn't speak for a long time. Just then, my phone suddenly vibrated on the table. It was a strange landline number. I casually turned on the speakerphone. A woman's urgent voice came from the other end of the phone. "Hello, is this Su Yuning? This is the emergency department of the 2nd Municipal Hospital. Shen Linchuan had a car accident and his injuries are serious. Please or his family come to the emergency department as soon as possible." I frowned. Shouldn't the hospital directly notify the school or his family? Why did they call me directly? I replied, "Sorry, Shen Linchuan and I are just ordinary classmates. I suggest you directly contact his family." The person on the other end was obviously taken aback for a moment. "You are the only emergency contact on the injured person's phone. Could you please help contact his family?" "I don't know the contact information of his family. I still have something to deal with here. So I'll hang up now." After saying that, I hung up the phone neatly. I looked up and met 3 shocked faces. Their mouths were slightly open, as if they were meeting me for the first time, but I didn't want to explain anything at this moment. I just dragged my heavy legs and walked into the bathroom. 9. These 2 days, the classmates in the class often gathered together and talked about something. When I got closer, their conversation would stop abruptly. I didn't need to think to know that they must be gossiping about me behind my back. I didn't care. I went to class as usual, ate alone, and went to the study room to read and study when I didn't have classes. Finally, before the morning class on the 4th day, Li Qing, Shen Linchuan's roommate, stopped me in the corridor. There was some anger on his face. Su Yuning, do you have any heart at all? Linchuan is lying in the hospital now. His right leg has a comminuted fracture. And the doctor said that his right leg is likely to be disabled. It's just a lame leg. In my previous life, I had my entire left leg amputated. My expression was indifferent, and I calmly retorted, so what? Li Cheng's expression twisted slightly, and he said angrily, most of our classmates have gone to visit him, even Zhou Hao, who had a feud with him in the student union, went. But what about you? You're his girlfriend, but you haven't even called him. Is your heart made of stone? I gave him a disdainful look and said, maybe Zhou Hao went to the hospital to gloat. You. Li Qing was so angry that he choked. He couldn't find a word to retort to me for a moment. I looked straight into his eyes and reminded him, perhaps the person you should notify about Shen Linchuan's injury is Lin Muxue, not me. Li Cheng's expression froze. The atmosphere was stagnant for a moment. Just then, the bell for class rang in the distance. I pushed his arm aside and walked into the classroom from the back door without looking back. Li Cheng's voice, suppressing his anger, came from behind me. Su Yuning, you're the coldest person I've ever met. I twitched the corners of my mouth and curled up a sarcastic sneer. Cold-blooded, compared to you heartless and hypocritical scumbags. What I've done is really nothing. 10. But I still went to the hospital to see Shen Linchuan. As soon as I pushed open the door of the ward, a strange smell hit my nose. Shen Linchuan's right leg was wrapped in thick gauze. There were dried yellow medicine stains on the gauze, and some dark brown bloodstains seeped through. It looked really disgusting. I heard that his injury was very serious. He had to be debrided and have the inflammation reduced first, and the operation could only be carried out after the inflammation was suppressed. I looked at the man who was half lying on the head of the bed. In just a week, he had almost lost all his weight, and his pale cheeks were deeply sunken, just like me at this time in my previous life. He looked very weak, but the moment he saw me, his eyes lit up. Yuning, you're here. There was joy in the man's hoarse voice. He sat up straight excitedly, probably accidentally pulling the wound. He frowned and let out a pained groan. However, the next moment, when his gaze accidentally landed on my intact left leg, his eyes, which were originally filled with joy, suddenly trembled. Shen Linchuan remained silent, but his gaze was fixed firmly on my left leg. I silently walked to the stool beside his hospital bed and sat down, putting the canvas bag on my lap. Su Yuning, why didn't you save me that day? Or, you could clearly have stopped me. I know you could have. His voice wasn't loud, but it was filled with an uncontrollable tremor. My heart tightened, and a bitter feeling instantly spread throughout my body. Shen Linchuan, had he also come back? I looked at him coldly but didn't answer the question he asked. He felt a bit uncomfortable being stared at by me, and a cold sneer curled up at the corner of his mouth. I've had the car accident for so many days, and it's really rare that Miss Su finally remembered to come and see me. Well, because the summer vacation will start after the exam next month, I said. Shen Linchuan didn't seem to understand what I said and looked at me with a frown, puzzled. I don't plan to do a summer job this summer vacation. I've made an appointment with a friend to travel abroad, so I need you to return the 170 yuan to me now. Shen Linchuan widened his eyes in disbelief, and his eye sockets gradually turned scarlet. His voice became a bit broken. You came to the hospital just to ask me for money. Su Yuning, do you have any heart at all? Have you ever truly loved me? 11. Shen Linchuan's question made me laugh in disbelief. He actually asked me if I had truly loved him. Then how did I lose my leg in my previous life? Was it because I didn't want it anymore? The scene of Li Qing saying that he regarded me as Lin Mushua's substitute suddenly flashed in my mind, and after I died, he sat in front of my grave and said those words. How could such a scum of the earth be worthy of my love again? I sneered. Shen Linchuan, in your eyes, am I a fool who can be easily deceived by you? He was slightly taken aback. Then he replied angrily, when have I ever deceived you? In my previous life, I worked hard and took care of you, a disabled person, for a full 17 years. What else do you want? I sneered. Take care of me. In the 2 years before we got married, you did take care of me, but most of the time, I was alone at home. I hopped around on one leg with a crutch, taking care of myself. Later, after we got married and you had money, you hired a nanny and were so touched by yourself, Shinlin Chuan. Tell me with your conscience, how many times have you truly taken care of me? Shinlin Chuan's face turned red. Don't I need to work? Don't I need to make money? I have social engagements and business trips every day, all for you and our family. Do you think the 200,000 yuan I give you every month is just picked up for free? Social engagements, business trips. I repeated his words sarcastically. Is it a social engagement to have sex with Lin Mushui in the Lanwan villa? Or is it a business trip to attend the parents' meeting for your daughter in the 3rd year of junior high school? When I mentioned Lin Mushui and his daughter, Shen Lingchuan's expression changed suddenly, and all the color drained from his face. After a short silence, he suddenly laughed strangely. He said, Su Yuning, do you know how I felt every time I had sex with you and saw the stump of your left leg? I just wanted to vomit, really. It was a physical nausea and the urge to vomit. Every time we had sex, I had to take medicine in advance and suppress myself desperately to continue facing you. If what you call deceiving refers to this matter, then I really did deceive you. Every word of his was like a poison knife, stabbing directly into my heart and then stirring it repeatedly. I tried my best to keep calm, but my teeth still chattered uncontrollably. Tears were almost about to burst out. But I couldn't. I didn't want to break down in front of such a scumbag. I stood up, raised my right hand, and with all my strength, slapped him hard in the face. Shen Linchuan, you're a piece of trash, damn it. Why wasn't your ass directly killed by the car that day? The man's face was slapped to the side by me. He pressed his tongue against the corner of his mouth that was bleeding, and his Adam's apple rolled up and down. I took a deep breath and tried my best to suppress the tremor in my voice. Today, I don't want to hear how much you once hated me, and I don't want to talk about the favor of saving you in my previous life, since it's all in the past life. There's no need for anyone to mention it again in the future. I came here for 2 things. One is that we break up, and the other is that you pay back the money immediately. From now on, we're completely done with each other and have nothing to do with each other. 12. I stood in front of the hospital bed. With my arms crossed over my chest, I coldly watched Shen Linchuan with a dark face, making phone calls one by one to his relatives and friends to borrow money. When Alipay notified me that 57,170 yuan had been credited to my account, I blocked all of his contact information right in front of him. I was just about to turn around and leave. Shen Linchuan's cold voice came from behind me. Su Yuning, I really want to see how well you can live this life without me. Relying only on your father who is full of scheming and your stepmother who is so calculating. When that time comes, if you regret it and want to come back to me, I may not necessarily accept you. I paused slightly in my steps. The faces of that disgusting man and woman involuntarily emerged in my mind. That woman was my mother's cousin. After my mother was diagnosed with advanced cervical cancer, she came to take care of my mother for a while. As a result, she ended up in my father's bed. After my mother passed away, I became a thorn in her side. She only had eyes for her own daughter and her ex-husband's daughter. She racked her brains to drive me, who was under 14 years old, out of the house. My father turned a blind eye to it. Even at the instigation of that woman, he forced me to drop out of school and go to work to earn money. Naturally, I didn't want to. Fortunately, I got excellent grades in the high school entrance examination, and the high school waived my tuition fees. Later, I managed to get a scholarship through my hard work. In addition, I found someone to sell the gold bracelet my mother left me, and I barely managed to finish 3 years of high school. Shen Linchuan certainly knew how terrible my original family was. He also knew how much I hated that despicable couple, but now, he was deliberately using them to provoke me. A surge of anger rushed to the top of my head with a buzz. I suddenly turned around and walked up to his hospital bed, raised my hand and slapped him again, and then spat in his face. Ugh, you want me to come back? It's 12 o'clock at noon. What the hell kind of daydream are you having? I think you're just as lowly as those 2 beasts, all from the same filthy den. Shen Linchuan's face twisted instantly, and the veins on his forehead bulged. He suddenly got up from the hospital bed and pounced towards me, but because of his injured right leg, he fell heavily to the ground. Su, you, Ning. He gritted his teeth and roared my name, as if he wanted to devour me alive. I looked down at him contemptuously and coldly, and then slammed the door and left. 13. I had already cut off all contact with Shen Linchuan, but things about him still inevitably reached my ears through other classmates in the class. I heard that he had a serious infection after the operation, which led to sepsis, and he stayed in the ICU for more than a month. His parents came to the school to handle the leave of absence formalities for him. In order to encourage him, Lin Muxiwa wore a white veil on her head and took a photo of herself kissing Shen Linchuan on the hospital bed. There were also people on the campus forum who specifically posted about their relationship. The classmates all envied Lin Muxiwa's unwavering love for him and said that they were true lovers, but I didn't have time to pay attention to them. I was busy preparing for the Advanced English Interpretation examination, studying for the postgraduate entrance examination, and enjoying the feeling of running freely with my healthy legs. I immersed myself in BBC News and TED speeches every day, and even practiced simultaneous interpretation in my dreams. The name Shen Linchuan had long been blurred by my studies. The next time I saw Shen Linchuan was in the winter of my senior year, just before New Year's Day. At that time, it had been only a few days since the preliminary examination of the postgraduate entrance examination ended, and the nerves that I had been tensing all the time finally got a little relaxation. That day, I sat by the artificial lake holding a cup of hot cocoa, watching the artificially raised red-billed gulls frolicking and hovering on the lake. Suddenly, a fierce argument came from not far away. Shen Linchuan, why don't you stay in the rental house properly? What are you doing going crazy at school? Look at your current state, neither human nor ghost. You've scared my friends away. The woman's voice was filled with anger and disgust. I looked in the direction of the sound. Behind the bare kapok tree, I saw two familiar figures. In the cold winter, Shen Linchuan was only wearing a wrinkled checkered shirt. He was extremely thin. Coupled with the fact that he was hunched over and leaning on a crutch at the moment, he looked very miserable. Shen Linchuan's eyes were bloodshot, and he asked sarcastically, "Friends? You tell me they're friends? You were all hugging and kissing each other. How the hell are they still friends?" Lin Muxiwa, I just took a leave of absence for a while, and you couldn't wait to hook up with someone else behind my back. No wonder you didn't answer my calls or reply to my messages recently. If I hadn't secretly come here today, I wouldn't have known that you were cheating on me. Lin Muxiwa looked impatient. It's none of your business what I do. If I don't be with others, am I really going to marry you? If I had known that you would be a 7th level disabled person, I would never have been with you in the first place. If I dared to take you home, my parents would break my legs. You despise me. Shen Linchuan's whole body trembled violently. He lost his composure and roared, "Don't forget who I ended up like this for. If it wasn't for buying things for you, how could I have been hit by a car? Then go call the police." Lin Muxiwa's voice was cold. "Go ahead, if you have the guts. Let the police arrest me. It's clearly your own fault for not looking when you crossed the road. The driver who hit you really had the worst luck. I'm warning you. Stay away from me in the future and don't come to me again. I have nothing to do with you." After Lin Muxiwa finished speaking, she turned around and left directly. As if all the support had been pulled out of Shen Linchuan's body, his crutch fell, and he also lost his balance and fell to the right on the ground. With a sarcastic smile on my lips, I watched the whole show. Shen Linchuan struggled to get up from the ground. The moment he raised his head, his gaze happened to meet mine. He shuddered, as if struck by lightning, and his whole body froze in the biting cold wind. 14. In the 8 o'clock class on Monday morning, I was listening to music with earphones on, holding a steaming basket of steamed buns and a cup of soy milk in my hand, and hurried into the classroom. As soon as I found an empty seat and sat down, Shui Yan, who had a good relationship with me, sat next to me. She bumped my elbow mysteriously. I took off my earphones in confusion. Shui Yan leaned over and lowered her voice. "Yuning, have you heard? Shen Linchuan's girlfriend from the School of the Arts has hooked up with a junior from the School of Physical Education." The gossiping expression on her face couldn't be suppressed, and her tone was also a bit excited. "Yesterday, that girl went to a hotel with the junior. As a result, Shen Linchuan caught them. Shen Linchuan fought with that boy, but with his lame leg. How could he be a match for a physical education student? Well, he was sent to the hospital again last night." My hand that was unpacking the breakfast packaging paused. Shui Yan continued, "The police were even called yesterday. Both the physical education student and that girl were taken away. It's really outrageous. How about it?" She suddenly grabbed my wrist, blinked her big eyes, and asked me, "Don't you feel really relieved after hearing this?" I smiled and nodded. "Yeah, it's really relieving. They deserve it." The girl chuckled. "That's more like it. Since you broke up with Shen Linchuan, I've hardly seen you smile. It's hard to find a toad with 3 legs in this world, but there are plenty of men with 2 legs." I looked at her gratefully. Among my classmates, she was the only one who had always shown kindness to me. In the eyes of other classmates, I was an extreme egoist who immediately broke up with Shen Linchuan after his car accident. They thought that a person like me was not worth making friends with. Shui Yan bumped my shoulder again, her eyes curved into a smile. I heard that you even passed the oral test of the Advanced English Interpretation examination at one go. You're so amazing. I smiled. Well, maybe I was just a bit lucky. Then, I'll treat you to dinner tonight. You can choose the restaurant. Great. 15. Half a year passed by in a flash. Before I knew it, the first semester of my senior year was coming to an end. Many classmates had already left the school one after another after finishing the exams. After the last course of financial engineering in our major was over, my roommates were also packing their luggage and preparing to go home. Shui Yan had a lot of luggage, and she called me to help her move the luggage to the taxi parked outside the school. When I saw Shui Yan off and then came back to the dormitory, I found that the other 3 people had already left. I stood alone in the empty dormitory and suddenly felt an indescribable sadness in my heart. I still remembered that in September of the year when I first entered the university, I greeted them awkwardly. Now, it's going to be graduation so soon, next semester, except for a few classmates who are going to prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination at school. Everyone will go their separate ways and start their internships. The next time we meet should be during the thesis defense. I washed my face and stood in front of the mirror for a long time. I felt really lost in my heart. I picked up my canvas bag and went downstairs, planning to go to the supermarket to buy some milk and dry food. In 2 more days, the supermarket would also close. As soon as I walked out of the dormitory building, I saw a familiar figure standing not far away. I glanced at Shin Linchuan, who was standing by the passage with a crutch, and wanted to pretend not to see him and pass by. When he saw me, he was a bit surprised and quickly hopped twice on his crutch and jumped in front of me. Yuning, you're down. I have something to talk to you about. I didn't want to have any entanglement with him at all, and just said coldly, get out of my way, you're blocking me from breathing fresh air. His eyes were slightly red, and he looked straight at me, his eyes full of affection. Yuning, don't be like this. I've been waiting for you here on purpose. Don't you have anywhere to go during the winter vacation? I've rented the apartment we lived in our previous life. I'll help you move your things there, and we can spend the spring festival together this year. I rubbed my temples irritably. Could he really think that I would miss that rental house which was like a cage to me? Shin Linchuan, will you ever stop? Didn't you say that if there was an afterlife, we would be miles apart and never see each other again? Who are you pretending to be affectionate for now? As I said that, I wanted to step around him and leave, but Shin Linchuan grabbed my arm. Sorry, I was an asshole. I was blinded by greed. I take back those words. He raised his hand and slapped himself twice. Yuning, I regret it. Let's get back together. I swear to you that I will treat you well for the rest of my life. I was really speechless. I mean, this was just too much. I shook off his hand fiercely. Take your dirty hand away. What right do you have to touch me? Shin Linchuan's face turned pale, and his eyes were filled with mist. Yuning, how can you be so heartless? After all, we were husband and wife for more than 10 years. I don't believe that you have no feelings for me at all. He actually had the nerve to accuse me of being heartless, when he treated me like that in the previous life. He never considered whether he was heartless, seeing that he was stubbornly blocking my way and refused to leave. I raised my foot and kicked his intact left leg hard. He let out a cry of pain. His other lame leg couldn't bear the weight at all. After staggering a few steps, he fell heavily to the ground. I shrugged innocently. I already told you to get lost. You insisted on pestering me. I suspect that you want to illegally restrict my personal freedom. This is just self-defense on my part. Shin Linchuan lay on the ground, looking at me with a sad and affectionate expression. Yuning, I don't blame you. If this can make you feel better, I'm willing to endure it. You can kick me as many times as you want, as long as you can forgive me. I looked at his shameless look, and I was afraid that I would make him feel good by kicking him, since no one was blocking my way anymore. I naturally didn't have the time to waste words with him. I raised my foot and directly stepped over him. 16. In late February, the results of the preliminary examination of the postgraduate entrance examination came out. The score was good, more than 20 points higher than my last mock exam. It was an excellent performance beyond my normal level, considering safety and my own ability. I didn't apply for the first-tier universities. Instead, I applied for a popular major in a second-tier university. The direction was smart finance. Then I started to prepare nervously for the re-examination. The next time I heard news about Shin Linchuan was half a year after I entered graduate school. Since I kicked him that time, he had harassed me for a while, but every time, either I gave him a beating, or I called the security guards or the police. Gradually, he no longer appeared in front of me. That day, I just came out of the financial laboratory. I received a WeChat voice message from Shui Yan on my phone. During the conversation, she told me that Lin Muxiue and Shen Linchuan had gotten married and invited many of our classmates. I asked curiously, didn't they break up before? Then, I heard an extremely shocking story. During her internship, Lin Muxiue worked as a music teacher in a private elite primary school. As a result, she got involved with a student's father. This was discovered by the student's mother, who put the man and hers racy photos and explicit chat records on the internet. Since the man was a senior executive of a listed company, the topic quickly became a trending topic on the internet that night. Hashtag expose an executive having passionate moments with an intern teacher in the car. Hashtag the music teacher of an elite primary school is involved in an affair and exposed by the wife. Hashtag the wife exposes the explicit chat records between the executive and the intern teacher. Hashtag. Not long after this incident happened, Lin Muxiue was knocked unconscious on her way home one night. When she woke up, she found that her hands were covered in blood. After diagnosis, the tendons in both of her wrists were precisely severed. After treatment, although she retained her ability to live daily life, it was no longer possible for her to play musical instruments like the guzheng and the piano. So, Shen Linchuan took advantage of the situation at this time. I asked Shui Yin, you guessed it right. Shen Linchuan took the initiative to find Lin Muxiue and said that he would take good care of her for the rest of his life. They just had their wedding a few days ago. It was quite grand, and my boyfriend also went. I smiled. They were really a pair of lovers. They became a couple in both lifetimes. After graduating from graduate school, I entered an international financial company through campus recruitment and became a management trainee. The job requires frequent trips between Shanghai and Hong Kong, China. I became even busier, but I still managed to find time to fall in love. My boyfriend is an alumnus I met during my postgraduate studies, majoring in artificial intelligence. On Valentine's Day, since I was working in Hong Kong, China, I had a long phone call with my boyfriend after work. By the time I hung up the phone, it was already late at night. When I opened WeChat, I saw more than 100 unread messages in the university class group. Everyone seemed to be discussing Lin Muxiue and Shen Linchuan. Out of curiosity, I scrolled up through the messages. The earliest message was a forwarded news article. Woman unable to bear long-term domestic violence, poisons her family with tetramine. In the news photo, the person wearing a yellow detention center vest and bowing her head for an interview was unexpectedly Lin Muxiue. Lin Muxiue stated that since getting married, she had felt like falling into an abyss. She not only had to take care of her lame husband but also serve her difficult in-laws. Even when she was pregnant, she was ordered by her mother-in-law to do housework. Just because she said she would do it a little later, she was pushed hard by her mother-in-law. Her stomach hit the corner of the table, and she miscarried the baby in her womb. However, instead of feeling sorry for her, her husband cursed at her, calling her a useless person who couldn't even protect their child. As soon as she got home after the dilation and curettage surgery, she was brutally beaten by her husband. Since then, her husband seemed to be possessed by a demon and often tortured her in various ways. Every time he saw her kneeling on the ground and crying for mercy in pain, a sickening sense of pleasure would appear on his face. She spent every day in fear and despair. She tried to escape, get a divorce, and seek help from her parents, but every attempt of hers was met with endless beatings from her in-laws and husband. Finally, she broke down. The long-term suppression and despair made her completely give up struggling. She bought a large amount of rat poison and secretly added it to the meals of those 3 people time and time again. It was not until her mother-in-law suddenly vomited and fainted and was urgently sent to the hospital that the truth was revealed. Looking at this news, I didn't feel particularly satisfied, nor did I sigh with emotion. Perhaps truly letting go means that even hearing news about them feels irrelevant. 18. In the 18th month of my management trainee period, I finally passed the confirmation interview. The basic annual salary on the offer handed to me by the HR made me subconsciously hold my breath. This didn't even include the performance bonus I might receive at the end of the year. Life really became brighter. I have a healthy body, a satisfying job, and a like-minded lover. In my previous life, I was deeply trapped in pain and suffered from physical torture, but fortunately, I'm now standing at a brand new crossroads in life. The wind comes from the other side, carrying a sense of chill and freedom. Only occasionally, in the dead of night, I always feel that there is a missing piece in my heart, until one night when I was working overtime, among the distant twinkling lights, my memory suddenly flashed back to the disgusting faces of my father and stepmother. Calculating the time, we haven't been in touch for 6 or 7 years. It's also time for me to care about their family, so, during my vacation, I went back to my hometown. I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but the day I got home happened to be the day my stepsister got engaged. It was obvious that the whole family was very satisfied with my stepsister's fiancé. My father and stepmother would have their tails wagging all the way to the sky if they had tails. The man was the second generation of a factory owner. He was tall, handsome, and wealthy. No wonder my stepsister looked at him with love and happiness in her eyes. My father and stepmother didn't react much to my return. They were still as cold and indifferent as before. They would just be a bit more enthusiastic when talking about their daughter finding a rich husband, during the few days in my hometown. I asked around and got detailed information about the factory owned by my stepsister's husband's family. I saw the recruitment information for a receptionist at their factory on a recruitment website, so I spent a large sum of money to hire a beautiful amateur actress. I also carefully designed a script and asked the actress to apply for the job according to my plan and then get close to my dear stepsister's fiancé. If she successfully made them break up and call off the engagement, I would add an additional bonus of 200,000 yuan. Of course, I wouldn't force her to use any illegal means. If she took the initiative to throw herself at him, that would be her own problem. The girl really didn't let me down. In just 3 months, there came the news that my stepsister and her fiancé were breaking up. 2 months later, the girl sent me a transfer of 888 yuan, along with 2 marriage certificates. The bride was her, and the groom was unexpectedly my stepsister's fiancé. Before I could react, her video call popped up. As soon as I answered it, I heard her clear and joyful voice. "Sister, quickly accept the red envelope. My wedding with Jemming will be held next month. Can you come and be my bridesmaid?" I was a bit stunned. After reacting, I quickly said, "Oh, right, then I'll add the bonus for you. It's still the same bank card as last time, right?" She directly interrupted me. "I haven't even properly thanked you for introducing Jemming to me. I don't want the bonus anymore. However, I found out yesterday that I'm pregnant. Can I ask you to be the godmother of my child?" Seeing my hesitation, she threw out a condition that I couldn't refuse. She said meaningfully, "In case you still need professional actors in the near future, I can introduce some to you." I thought about it, smiled, and asked, "Then do you know any older actors? Those around 40 or 50 years old?" I heard her pat her chest on the other end of the phone. "Of course, send me the location and time of the wedding. I will definitely be there." 3 months later, he remarried in a high-profile manner and hosted a banquet for guests from all over. Back then, when her mother climbed into my father's bed and made my seriously ill mother so angry that she vomited blood, when she brazenly moved into my bedroom and threw my belongings into the community trash bin like garbage, when she joined forces with my classmates at school to bully me and gave me the nickname Ground Rat, no one cared whether I was innocent or not, since her mother